Like you guys, I'm always interested in how people live, you know what I mean? In the countryside, in the city, in the burbs, you know what I mean? In the suburbs. Now, the city life, yeah, is kind of a little similar, and it's a hustle and bustle thing. I think there's a lot more diversity as far as the way people survive in the country because, depending on how far out in the country you live, certain things would be different. This is the reason why I decided to watch American versus European suburbs and why US suburbs suck. Oh dear Lord, I didn't even see that last part about it there, you know what I mean? Now, does it suck as far as aesthetic is concerned? Does it suck as far as the people and the culture within the suburbs are concerned? I don't know. Let's go ahead and YouTube and Sibsibber and see what exactly it is they're talking about. Let's go.
This is a typical American suburban street. It's wide, the houses are very far apart and look mostly the same. There is barely anything on the well-manicured lawns, post boxes, a few trees or bushes, and the occasional fire hydrant.
Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you straight up. The suburbs don't have any character here. Nobody could put their own style or spin on the thing. Everything is the same drab colors, nothing colorful. Oh, that colorful stuff is hideous. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't live in the suburbs, but I'll give you a perfect example. The building I live in is a blue building. It's the only building with any color. And it's a bright blue too. You know what I mean? It's just a tad above, a tad darker than a sky blue on a sunny day. And there's no other building here that's painted or any nice color or anything. It's just like this colorless city, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, there's no character. And then they have what you call what do they call them? HOAs and thing, and they're like looking to see, that person is doing something different. No, we can't have that. Oh, that hedge. No. Oh, those Christmas lights are too hideous. We just want it to be nice and plain, you know what I mean? Yeah, no character in a lot of them.
Compare these to a suburb in Leipzig, Germany. What differences do you notice?
The houses have character, they're different.
First off, there is stuff around you. The streetscape is very diverse and mentally engaging. In comparison, the American suburb looks like a desolate urban wasteland. Also in the European suburb, the street is narrow, there is a 30 km/h speed limit, and the buildings are close together. Do notice the tram tracks. In this suburb, you can live car-free. If you want to go to the center, you can either take the tram or ride your bike for 20 minutes on dedicated bike lanes. Or take the S-Bahn because there is also a train station. In the American suburb, you have no option but to drive. Head out onto the busiest road, a horrifying mix of street and road, onto the jammed highway, and after an hour you'll be in the center, searching for a parking spot. How about going to a restaurant? In the European suburb, there are dozens of different, unique, local restaurants reachable on foot, by bike, or public transit. In the American suburb, you're an hour walk away from a chain restaurant next to a busiest road. If you want to eat, you gotta get in your car.
I think the American suburbs was created to get away from the hubbub of all of that, you know what I mean? And of course to separate people from the haves and the have-nots. I also think that people go to the suburbs so that they could have peace and quiet, if you will, you know what I mean? Even though they love their drama and thing up in the suburbs, you know?
What if you have children? In this European suburb, there are 3 schools close by. Kids can walk or bike there on their own and learn to be independent early on. In the American suburb, a child could get to school after 35 minutes of walking, mostly along a busy arterial road, also having to cross a 6-lane road. And somehow, there's no crosswalk, so kids have to be driven to school every day by mommy and daddy. The same goes for sports. Over here, kids can take a 10-minute walk to the nearest sports field or a 3-minute bike ride on calm, safe streets on their own. In the US, it's a 40-minute march through a maze of streets partially along a major transit artery. Gotta get in the SUV and let mommy drive you to practice. This is where the term soccer mom originates from, by the way. People lament today's children for being overly dependent on their parents. But in such neighborhoods, children don't have a choice but to be dependent. Otherwise, they cannot go anywhere. They are stuck at home. In contrast, in European suburbs, kids can be let out safely to move around on their own, to go to places they want to, without the need for the mommy and daddy taxi service. Do note that yellow residential building on the left. That is a mid-rise. European suburbs tend to be a mixture of those and single or multi-family homes, like on this street.
That kind of sort of has started to happen here a little bit.
Zoning in US suburbs only allows for single-family homes, and they are usually placed very far apart, leading to low density and long distances. This makes public transportation non-viable. Over here in Europe, hundreds of people live within walking distance of this tram stop. In the US, if you put a tram stop here, you would have a few dozen people living within walking distance. Meaning, even if you build public transit here, almost nobody would take it, because no matter how you build it, people would be too far away from it. If you're half an hour away on foot from the nearest tram stop, you'll take your car instead. And people do. So giant highways had to be built, rammed right into the city, usually demolishing non-white neighborhoods in the process. The end result was mass motorization all across America, constant traffic jams, noise and pollution, but not for the suburbanites. It was the urban dwellers, particularly those who were poor, who had to live near high traffic areas, cheap, low-quality housing. The suburbs also became a growth Ponzi scheme, where income from the suburbs couldn't cover future infrastructure overhauls, so the city had to expand and sell new properties constantly to get enough money to maintain what they already have. Not Just Bikes did a great video about this, link in the description. The suburbs and car-centric development were useful political tools in the 1950s to enforce a Christian conservative, white nationalist hierarchy within American society. While women are on top, women are at home, fully dependent on their husbands, and where all resources are channeled towards the white middle and upper class in the form of billions in state subsidies. And the rest of society, poor people, non-whites, were left to fend for themselves in decaying urban centers, sucked dry financially by the parasitic suburbs around them. Car-centric planning became a weapon of choice for conservatives in order to maintain the unequal status quo. And this phenomenon isn't unique to America. In Europe, as our cities transition away...
Okay, I mean, I didn't expect him to say all that stuff there, the political stuff. I'm not saying he's wrong, and it's obviously not an American that's narrating this, so I'm not saying he's wrong. But I didn't expect it to go there with the, the white stuff and the suburbs and all of that. No, there is. Since there's a lot more successful black people, you could go on and see videos where a black man is living in a suburb, and they call them Karens. A white woman might come up and say, "Where do you live?" "I don't think you belong here," and they'll follow you or stop you. You know what I mean? And even sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes police would stop you and say, "Yeah, you don't seem to belong in this neighborhood. Where do you live? What's your address? What's your name? What's your birth date?" So in essence, I could understand where that comes from. You know what I mean? Like I can't tell you the last time I've been in the suburbs here. Is there a suburbs here? Well, yeah, there's a place called Barbersville up there. Yeah, I work at a grocery store down here, and they call that one the ghetto grocery store, and they call the other one where the suburbs are, and all the well-to-do people live, they call it the Gucci grocery store. I ain't gonna name the name of the company, but let's keep watching this. That's interesting that he brought that up.
Away from cars, the opponents of this change are almost always conservatives. While the incumbent Ferris mayor campaigned on eliminating 50,000 parking spaces, her conservative opponent, who looks frankly diabolical even by French standards, wanted to halt decongestion measures. In Prague, a city overrun by cars, conservatives keep screaming about these cyclo-fascists ruining the city after a shadow is painted somewhere. Meanwhile, conservative district mayors are busy turning sidewalks into parking lots. In Madrid, the conservative city leadership cancelled the ultra-low emission zones, leading to local protests to bring them back. In Budapest, we have Orbán's far-right conservatives screaming about how there is a witch hunt against drivers by the new center-left mayor, and complaining how in inner-city Budapest it's almost faster to walk now than to drive. Even in Germany, Bavarian conservatives are dumping money into highways while letting the rail network fall into disrepair. As a rule of thumb, in every city with decongestion measures, you'll also find conservatives screaming about the war on cars, the symbol of hierarchy in transportation, where the affluent suburban minority gets to occupy 80% of public space inside cities, compared to the more egalitarian space use for public transit and bicycles.
If we didn't have this mass highway system and all of that stuff, and things were built according to how it said it was built there, the suburbs there, can you imagine the community? People would be taking bicycles and getting to know each other, you know what I mean? The public transport. Would we be as afraid of each other as we are now? You know what I'm saying? Where in essence, we're sort of bound to communicate with each other. Now, because by the time, the only places that you could really have a kind of communication is if you meet up at the grocery store. And I'm telling you, man, people are mad here at the grocery store. As a matter of fact, I went to the grocery store this morning, and there was a guy just screaming and hollering in there, and him and one of my co-workers were going back and forth. I just went to shop and get some vegetable and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And then he hopped in his car. So there's his car and drives off. So there's no real communication unless everybody's rushing to go somewhere. And if they're rushing to go somewhere and they're transporting themselves, then they act up, crazy. You cut me off, blah, 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 you know what I mean? But imagine, everybody's riding a bike elsewhere, you know what I mean? You're not going too fast, there's no racing. So everybody would, and wouldn't it be more, people probably would be more courteous because they're more liable to get hurt easier if they're racing through the bike lanes and running over people. Everybody's, the injury ratio would be like 50-50.
Forbid you have to get out of your giant SUV of death and get on a tram with the peasants. Of course, upholding the conservative hierarchy isn't why suburbs are built today in the US. It's mostly just a necessary continuation of the Ponzi scheme that began with the first suburbs. Also, it's due to faulty zoning codes not allowing for mid-rise developments that would actually make more money for the city, increase density, and make public transit viable. In Europe, our suburbs are mixed with both mid-rises, single and multi-family homes. They're an organic part of the city and contribute fairly to the local budget. There is also subsidized, affordable public transit. All in all, it's more egalitarian. And if the US situation sounds depressing in contrast, as an American, there are things you can do to potentially help change things. If there is a local transit riders union, go join it. Look if there are any initiatives on the ballot for traffic calming, bike lanes, etc. Show up to your local town hall meetings and advocate for zoning reform, ending parking minimums, and so on. If you're persistent enough, your ideas will be heard, and you can help push America back towards sensible, fair, more egalitarian urban planning, one neighborhood at a time. That's what I would do if I were you. Thank you for watching.
Wow, that's crazy how he went there. That was quite interesting though, you know what I mean? And it's sad to think that everything is put together for a specific reason, be it ideological, be it monetary, you know what I mean? It's just put and people just jump on it thinking, well, it's the next best thing or the newest thing, the fad that's proper for everybody, when it isn't, you know what I mean? Anyway, man, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this Put Me and thing, you know what I mean? I'll leave videos so you can keep watching me, you know what I mean? If you like the video, drop a like on it for me, please, alright? And comment down below. Tell me what you think. In your individual countries, what are the suburbs like there, you know what I mean? Let me know in the comment section. You all take care of each other, alright? Cool runnings.